Now let's take a look at adding some interesting tread detail. So looking at the state of the model at this point, you can see that I've gone ahead and added the guns at the top. I've used a smoothing workflow for this so I could get kind of a smooth curve around some of these holes and get some of the smoothness in here. But you can see that I've got edges here to create kind of bevels along those edges. Now looking at this, apart from this, aside from the fact that there are some wheels missing, I think it looks a little bit light. And some of that has to do with, I think, the lack of kind of smaller details. We've got these larger spans of geometry across the surface, but we don't have a lot of smaller detail which can help ground this. And so one of the things that we can add is tread on the tire. Now that's is something that you may decide, you have to decide whether you want to add as texture or model detail. And we'll talk about that more in the next lesson, but here let's say that we want to actually add this as model detail. Now I have a NURBS piece here for the actual tire, so I'm going to use this as a base for the tread that I want to build. And I want to build something kind of almost like a tank tread kind of an effect, a segmented kind of, almost could be metal combined in there, so it really grabs on to the surface. And so looking at this NURBS, you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 12 spans around. And so what I want to do is go ahead and convert this NURBS to polygon to get a base for this. Okay, so let me go ahead and just reset these. I'm going to set the tessellation type, or the type rather, to quads tessellation method to general, and then per surface number of isoparms, actually per span, I want to set per span 4 in the V. Okay, and then I can leave this at maybe 2. So what I want to get is 4 polygons between each one of these pieces. And so let's go ahead and tessellate that. So we had 12, so we should have 48 divisions here. And if we look at this both together, you can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, just as I wanted to have here. All right, and so now once we've got that, we can take one of these sections. So let's say this piece coming along right in here. All right, and I'm going to actually go ahead and just copy that, or select that whole thing. Now I'm going to shift select everything else and go ahead and delete it. So now we're just left with this piece up here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take part of this, so maybe this part, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate faces. Okay, and now I can go ahead and delete everything on this side. I want to leave these 2 center pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So we're left with a side and then a piece that sort of overlaps. Okay, so for this piece, I want to add some thickness to it. So we'll go ahead and use an extrude and just pull this out from the surface a bit. All right, and I also want to start to add some detail in here. So I'm going to select maybe these 3 faces. All right, and let's turn off keep faces together, do another extrude. Maybe pull this in a bit and up. Okay, and let's take these faces and start to, in the direction that they would turn, just pull those up a bit. So this is where they're going to kind of grab on. And do the same thing here. And then over here as well. This is going to be at a little bit of a different angle. All right. Now, let's smooth this and see what it looks like. So just hit 3. I want to sharpen this up. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the Insert Edge Loop tool. I want to sharpen up some of these lines. Coming down here, sharpening some of that up as well. Okay, and you can see how these are very very soft or round, and so we'll go ahead and add some edges right in here. Just kind of hold that. All right, so we start to get something like this, and we can take this line over here and let's kind of move it in just a little bit so we get something like that. Now you can see the bottom is still pretty rounded off. If we wanted to sharpen that up, we could go ahead and smooth it. Add edges, or we could just come in and start to delete these edges that are actually going to be into the tire. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. All right. So maybe something like that. Now for this piece, let's go ahead and smooth it. Add more resolution in here. If we look at this, this is actually on the center of the tire. All right, and so I want to have two of these. Let me go ahead and just isolate just these pieces. I want to have this piece mirrored over to the other side, and then I want to have a piece in the center. And this piece is going to be right here. So let me go ahead and center my pivot. And I'll just move it up just a hair. And I want to move it back. And then just start to modify this by grabbing these points and bringing them in a little bit closer together. And we'll take all of these as well. And this is just kind of what I'm doing. You could, when you're building your own, obviously, you'll be doing your own thing here. I don't know, something like that. Let's go ahead and extrude it up. And want to make sure, turn back on, keep faces together. Okay, and let's go ahead and I'm going to just rotate this again just a little. Okay, and I just want to move it forward a bit, and then let's take the whole thing and move it forward a little. We'll start to add some edge loops in here. So that we get something that's a little bit sharper. Get that nice bevel on it. So something like that. Could be anything really. And then we can duplicate this over to the other side. Okay, so we can duplicate it, just mirror that over, move it over to the side of the wheel there. All right, then we could go ahead and just take these and combine them. And we'll go ahead and add that back in. And so now all we have to do is duplicate this. And since there's a lot of polygons involved in this, we could use instancing to do this. And so I just wanted to center the pivot and then go ahead and drop that pivot down to the center of that, whatever we have built for our wheel. So in this case, we've got some polygons there. If we go ahead and turn that off, you can see that we've got some already geometry here for the hubless wheel that we've built, and we're just now adding some tread detail to this. Now I want to shorten that up a bit actually. Okay, so we could take this and kind of move it up, or you could just model and delete that out. And let's go ahead and take this And I just want to scale it in just a little bit. Maybe something like that. All right, so now all we have to do is, we know that there's 48 divisions here. So we need to go all the way around. So we can use duplicate special, just use a little bit of math here. So we'll go duplicate special. We want to create instances. We'll parent them under the world. And we want to rotate them. And we want to rotate them in the X. So our value is going to be plugged in to the rotation. And we've got 48 divisions, 360 degrees. So I think that gives us 7.5 degrees between each one. And we need 48 total, so 47 copies, including the one that we've already got. We'll go ahead and duplicate special. And there we've quickly got a nice kind of tank tread looking tread for our wheel. And you can see how that just adds a lot of interest to this. If we were to go ahead and turn that off, you can see that's what we get. We could add a texture to that. But here we just get all of this geometry and all of the nice edges and repeated patterns that come with that. So it just starts to add a lot of detail here. Now it depends on how much detail you're able to add without bogging down your system. If you're using an application working with games or something like that, you're going to want to transfer that into a texture map. So let's take a look in the next lesson at optimizing some of these details that we're going to be adding.